Hello.
Hello. Hello, George.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Is that
So,
how I pronounce your first name?
yeah, it's Jorge, which is a Spanish version
Jorge?
for George.
Yeah.
So I go by either.
Okay.
So, do I
That's
call you
good to know.
Joe or?
Just call me Joe or
Okay,
Mosaka, whatever.
okay, perfect. Mosaka. Is that
Yeah,
the
that's
Mosaka sounds kind of Japanese?
it's a bit Japanese, I agree, but it's not any Japanese word.
Okay. Hello, Georgie.
Hi.
Hello. We'll just wait for a few minutes to allow people to come in so then we can get started. It's been a while since we had this meeting last time.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, it got canceled because of the 4th of July, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
that's
it's been
why.
a month. We have a guest. She gets tired soon of cuddles and then she goes away.
Hey, Brian.
Hi.
Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Hello. We can get started. All right, so let me share the agenda, the group chat here. All right, why don't we get started? Hey, everyone, well, welcome. And today is July 18th, and this is the Run Wisely and Continue the Wise and Shames office hours. I'm Joe. You probably know me already. I also go with the handle name Mosaka on social medias. And here we're abiding by the CNCF Code of Conduct. Many says that we should be respectful to each other and just be nice here. And I encourage you, but not necessary, if you have any questions or comments, please use the raise hands feature in Zoom. I have the participants window open on that monitor so I can see all hands raised. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so everyone can see the agenda. So do the recording. And please add your name and the company representation attendance. Prove that you don't have to enter the company preferred. And then everyone can see my screen, right? Great. Let me know if the font is too small. To make it bigger. All right. So let's see. Recurring topics. We want to welcome any new members or attendees. Do we have anyone who's new here and wants to introduce themselves? I think so. Moving on. Please add your name to the attendee list above. Okay, done that. And let's move on to the open discussion. And today we only have one agenda item, which is by Jorge. We want to discuss the release process. And Jorge, would you like to talk about it?
Yes. So currently for Docker Desktop, we have a different repository where we build Run WASI based on the main branch, and then we use the build artifacts to include that into the Docker Desktop release. So we were doing that for a couple of sheams, and it turns out that doing that for all the sheams we want to ship is quite a lot of effort and time consuming for the GitHub Actions. And ideally, the workflow would be we download the release artifacts. So we're doing that with Taste Lab already. We're downloading the artifacts that they publish. It would be great if we can do the same with the sheams that are in the Run WASI repository. So there might be a different discussion whether the shim binaries should be in the right WASI repository or that should be just a library, but I guess that's a completely different discussion. So the last release in Run WASI is quite dated. There's been a lot of work going in the repository since then. So I think it would be great to first, I think the release process is a bit broken, so fixing that and then going into more standardized process for releasing and deciding when we do a new release. So for instance, when Yuki was introduced for Wasm Edge, there was no release, and now we have Yuki for Wasm Timer as well, and there has been no release since then. So when these are, I think, important milestones in the repo history, and it would be nice to have them linked to a release. So there are some artifacts already in for CI, so that when a new tag is created, we create a new release. But for instance, the Docker file that handles creating that release was broken for a while. So I think that now it is working. I'm also working with Wasm Edge so that we start shipping statically linked by a library, the Wasm Edge, so that we don't have to worry about the shared library, and we can embed that into the code and we don't have to install it separately. So I think that once those things are in, I would like to help move forward the release process.
Okay, so just to summarize, if I hear things correctly, there are mainly three things. One is to fix the current release process, release pipelines. Second thing is we want to do a new release. And the third thing is moving on into the future, we want to have a stabilized release process for Run WASI.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Anyone have any thoughts on those three things? Personally, I think the first two are super reasonable. We should be able to do it. Third thing, it's more about like how we want to do the release process in the future, and we have some discussions on that.
Can you quickly repeat 1 and 2?
Yes, the first thing is we want to fix the release pipeline, which is broken right now. And the second thing is we want to do a new release. So it has Yuki with Wasm Edge and Yuki with Wasm Pipe integrations.
Sorry, just to be clear, I'm not sure if the release pipeline is currently broken. The Docker file was broken for a while, but it should be fixed now. But I haven't tried the whole GitHub Action workflow. It would be interesting to know if you have any particular process for in the Taste Lab sheams. If you have any particular process for the release. I know that you did one this week, for instance.
For the shems, it's largely just adding a new tag and triggers in the process for release. I don't go with a particular schedule, and it's almost like determined by the number of features go into the shems. If there is a version bump on the Sting or there's a version bump Wasm Worker service, we just do a new release. Brian?
So I think the release process is working, at least last time we ran it. So the main thing was it created release artifacts for crates that didn't have any artifacts. But I believe that's fixed. So it should just be tag a release with the right tag info, and the release pipeline should kick off and handle the rest.
Yoshi?
Are you saying that the pipeline works or will work? Because I'm looking at the releases and I see some targets that are like 100 bytes. I'm not sure that we have.
Yeah, it works. Those releases are per crate. So Containerd Shim Wasm should have actually had no targets. That was a bug in the release script, but that should already be fixed.
Well, if I go to the releases page, even the last one is 103 bytes.
Yeah,
'Cause-
because that's just the crate that doesn't have any artifacts. It's just the
So where can we
Containerd
find-
Wasm shims or something like that.
Where can we find the artifacts then?
We have not done a release with
Okay.
artifacts yet, using the
Okay.
release process. Well, using it since we broke out the shims into different crates, basically.
Yeah, okay. Okay. But yeah, if we could have somewhere some release page where we can grab the AMD and ARM shims, that would be great. Because yeah, we last week, or I think the week before that, we weren't able anymore to build because we have I have this huge Docker file, and it was too much for GitHub Actions runner. So it would be great if we could just like gather all the binaries from other things and then bundle them to Docker Desktop. So
So I'm referring to this change where basically the Docker file that builds the artifacts was broken. It's fixed now.
Brian, saw your hands raised up.
Sorry, it didn't lower before. No.
Got it. So what I can see here is a feature request to add release artifacts to RunYZ.
Sorry, no. So that's already there. It will upload the artifacts. We just haven't done a release. So we just need
Got
to
it.
do a release. Yeah.
Got it.
yeah, okay. So then the ask is, let's make a new release, or when are we going to have a new release so that we can test it out?
We can definitely release like a 0.2 for everything. Today even probably. Just push a new tag.
So if I can have an opinion, I would prefer to release like in about a week time, or at least I would like to ship Wasm Edge with static linking, so that we don't have to deal with a shared library. But we can do 2 different releases as well.
I'm fine with either two. I have a pending PR to add the default executor to Wasm Time. I want to do that for Wasm Matches as well. It's just I don't have that thing to do right now. So that don't block the release. Great. And Jorge and Georgie, do you have any suggestions on the future stabilization of the release process? And how frequent do you want to have? Do you want to see a new release?
I don't think I don't think at the moment it makes sense to have a fixed cadence for the releases, but we should say, hey, there's maybe create an issue or something like requesting a new release when there's something that subjectively is a big amount of changes or a significant amount of changes that warrant a new release.
Yeah, so for Docker Desktop, we have we know in advance what are our fixed dates for releases. So for now, I think it works fine for us if we just like ping everyone and say, hey, it would be nice if you had a release. But then, I mean, if at one point that doesn't work anymore, we can definitely figure something else out.
Yeah, I think raising that issue to ask for a new release is totally reasonable.
We could probably even set up some automation so anybody can open a PR to like that changes some value to trigger a release or to trigger. Basically, it has to get reviewed and then get merged. When it gets merged, it'll trigger a pipeline that tags a release, and the tag will kick off the release pipeline. But just a thought. So anybody could like request a release at any time and they can go through some sort of automation.
I want that in the Shames repo as well. Sounds great. Jorge and Georgie, I remember you also mentioned the Shames in the Days Labs repo. Do you have any comments on that one about the release process?
No, we have, I mean, I think we have everything we need over there. Is that right, Jorge?
Yes, and if I'm not wrong, if I may be wrong, but I think that the release this week was due to Wasm Labs, so that because I had a new version of
Yep.
WebAssembly worker server, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if I think that you're probably in the same situation that having a fixed cadence doesn't make much sense, but having a triggered by human intervention makes more sense. Yeah, maybe if we have the automation of with a tag or something like that, with a PR, that would make sense to have the same system in both.
Well, the good thing is we have a recording, David. David, do you have any comments on this? I know you've been typing notes.
I'm always in favor of less human work in these situations. This should be something that is completely automated, and I think application of a tag, or even after an issue is opened and you get your quorum of updates on it, and it's approved or something, then it should kick off. I know there's some difficulty with like having version numbers in code and stuff like that, and that's kind of a pain. I'm not sure if there's a really good way to get around that in Rust, but it'd be really nice if we just like stamp out, stamp out a process where there really isn't any human intervention in it, and it's just, some maintainers say yes, and it goes on. You know what I mean?
I'm happy with fully automated if we add more end-to-end tests. Currently, the end-to-end tests we have, it's kind of basic. So it would be a pity if we do a new release and the shims are half functional. At least from my side, I would like to have some end-to-end test involving Docker to make sure that it's running properly with Docker.
Good, Jimmy. Always good to have more end-to-end tests. All right, just to summarize the actions, we would like to trigger a new release, possibly even today. Brian, would you like to do it?
You could do it.
Okay, I will take it.
We just have to name the tags correctly, so it matches the crate names and then the version number.
Do we need to bump the crate's name before I do that?
We just need to, so the tag needs to include, so we need to have a tag for every crate we're doing a release for.
Mm. David.
This is where it gets a little sloppy with the Containerd WASM shims. We were kind of lazy when we first set it up in that the Containerd WASM shims like throw everything into a single tar gzip, right? So we have like 3 shims in a single gzip now, which is kind of convenient for folks that just want to go to hit unpack it, throw it onto a file system, and it just does. However, it's very inconvenient when we start thinking about versioning. So when, with 3 shims, with 2 shims, it was, they kind of were in lockstep with versioning. And then we started to get some more spin updates, and now this one started to update a little faster than the other one. And then we introduced, the WASM worker server, and now all of these versions are like, completely skewed, but we're just like stamping a major version on the project itself. So we probably want to unravel that at some point to say, hey, we're going to tag a release for an individual shim, and that puts out a release for that individual shim. And I'm not sure if we want to do the same thing in RunWASI. I think it would make sense.
Yeah,
that's
what
at that level.
Yeah, that's what we have at RunWASI today. Yeah. Yeah. So you have a tag. The tag is namespace by the crate name, basically. I mean, exactly.
If I could add one thing to that, it's pretty hard right now to figure out which version of shim is installed in the system, because the shim has no interface for what's your version. It would be great if we somehow could figure out which shim is currently used.
I think that was like an issue in Containerd WASM shims like for a long time.
Yeah, I created that issue and I dug down into the code to see where it's at. It's like way down in the Rust Containerd WASM shim, like where the args are actually added is like way deep in the code. So it's not actually in the code we have, it's in the,
Rust extensions.
yeah, precisely, the Rust extensions. And so I didn't see a real clean way to add that flag in there for when it actually parses, the command line args that it's getting. It would be really nice if we could go and like say register some extra args, and so that we could like throw those into the Rust extension, the community shim, like the actual shim implementation, and get them down at that level. I don't know. Anybody ever look into that? Anybody look at that code before?
At one time I looked into it, but barely remember much about it. I think I created a issue on Rust extensions to basically say we should add a version arg. And that's all about it. I can try to find that issue. I mean, stop sharing my screen. So yeah, I pasted a link to the issue, which is to just add a version flag to print the building for the binary. About 4 months ago.
Yeah, I wanted to use that as well to validate in like the Kubernetes image builder. We have the shims added there, and part of the Packer script that we run, you want to be able to validate whether or not the thing works, right? Or even if you have the right process architecture, like silly stuff. And so usually we just run like a version arg against a given binary to make sure that we got the arg in there. We also have a working binary, and it replies back the version, the stupidest smoke test you could possibly have, right? So yeah, if anybody's interested in that one, I'm not sure if it's a good first issue, but it's definitely a good issue.
I'm happy to look into it when I have some spare cycles.
All right. Do we have any more thoughts and comments on this action item? I'd say this topic. If not, and I'm happy to give back everyone 30 minutes. Thanks for attending the meeting, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And thank you, David, for taking the notes.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm looking
Thanks,
forward to
Albert.
next
See
week,
ya.
David.
See you, bud.
Bye.